Hi, Lisa.
Hey, Bach, how you doing?
I have a cold, but otherwise good. Thank you very much. How are you doing?
I'm great, thanks.
Welcome, everyone, to a free association conversation between Lisa Grove and myself, Dr. Bach Ho. We're both organic intelligence coaches. We help people reduce suffering and increase capacity to handle more in life with ease using the protocols of organic intelligence. Links will be in the description to learn more about each of us. Lisa is a longtime client of mine and former NASA spacecraft systems engineer who worked on missions like the Galileo spacecraft to Jupiter and the Hubble Space Telescope. Today, our topic is rocket scientist on brain retraining and organic intelligence. When I hand it over to Lisa, I'll ask her to introduce what brain retraining is. It's something I've become more and more exposed to and researched a little in the past few years. I have clients coming to me who did a lot of brain retraining and then wanted to try organic intelligence. Some say brain retraining helped some and then they plateaued. Some say they think brain retraining might have made them worse. It tends to be high effort. Uh, Lisa has personal experience with brain retraining and still connects with people who find it helpful. I wanted to explore her experiences and how brain retraining compares to other modalities, especially organic intelligence. Also, Lisa has promised that she'll share the brain retraining technique that I can use after our conversation to resolve my cold immediately. Right? Um, a lot of expectations on Lisa. So, Lisa, can I hand it over to you? Could you introduce brain retraining to us a little bit and then proceed how you like? Yeah.
Sure. Let me just piggyback on your joke there. When you put NASA spacecraft systems engineer and brain retraining and organic intelligence all together, I thought, wow, back in the days when I was working for NASA, if you had said those terms to me, brain retraining and organic intelligence, I'd have thought you were crazy
Yeah.
because I'd never heard of them, and I just wasn't in that space in those days. I was in outer space. I
So much
that
there, Lisa. There, yeah. Yeah.
that was unintentional, but it was a good segue.
Well, actually, let me report since this is a free association conversation, if we were in an organic intelligence session, as you were speaking, I suddenly got into the mode of being an organic intelligence coach and almost proceeded with you as if we were in session and you were the client. And then I remembered, oh no, we're doing a live stream, so I won't do too much with that.
Okay,
Thank you for sharing the immediate feedback on my comments about yeah, brain
sure.
retraining, organic intelligence. What the heck are they? Yeah.
Right. So brain retraining refers to a bunch of approaches designed to calm and repattern the nervous system's stress responses. It's often used by people with chronic illness, chronic pain, related symptoms to support their recovery and reduce their symptoms, their overactivation. Some people have a lot of success with it, but like most modalities, it's not effective for everyone. Basically, it involves, from my own memory of the techniques that I started trying but didn't finish, and I'll go more into that.
Mhm.
It basically involves telling your brain to stop thinking the thoughts that might be causing your symptoms to be worse. So you kind of, I remember when I was learning about it and deciding if I wanted to try it or not, I kind of had this picture of my brain having all sorts of different roads in it. And some of the roads were 6-lane highways because I used them so much.
Mhm.
And a 6-lane highway is harder to change than a little dirt road. With the dirt road, you just go off road and drive where you want. But with the 6-lane highway, you're sort of stuck. Brain retraining lays down a new highway on
I
top of the other things.
Thank you for the examples. I mean, the vivid 6-lane highway, pretty rigid, reinforced. it's
Right,
gigantic, it's grooved in versus dirt road, easier to chain. Okay. Please continue if you're, yeah.
right. So brain retraining tries to address the 6-lane highways that perhaps have been built because of trauma or because of a lot of difficult experiences as a trigger and a pain, or a trigger and a symptom. And the thinking is that maybe the body's not really allergic to all those things, or not really afraid of all those things, but there's just this highway that got built.
So I'm gonna try to give an example, and I feel like it may be like a oversimplified and not presenting brain retraining in full positive light, but I'm not, that's not my intention. So would an example be, um, I feel in danger, and so I have thoughts about being in danger all the time, and brain retraining would say, okay, have safe thoughts. I'm safe, I'm safe, I'm safe. Repeat, repeat, repeat. Is that an example? Even though it sounds like a straw man, but I don't intend it that way. I intend
Right,
it.
right. It might be. I didn't look at brain retraining for trauma symptoms, so I don't know the exact approaches for that. I looked at brain retraining because I struggled with so many symptoms from complex illness that I had to live in the middle of nowhere because I was reacting to everything.
Yes.
So I thought, wow, some people are having success with wild, crazy symptoms that just won't seem to ever calm down, and maybe I'll try these techniques. So in that case, it was like, I would touch things, and it would be like, no, I can't touch that. My whole body starts having tension
Mhm.
just by touching it. And if I stopped touching it, the tension would drain. And if I kept touching it longer, the tension would take longer to drain away. So it was a real symptom. But the thinking with the brain retraining that as I understood it at that time, was that perhaps my nervous system had come up with those symptoms because of an overreaction. And it is true. I mean, I went through remembering childhood trauma when I was 37, and then needed 20 years of therapy to get through the PTSD that came after that. And when I was having this long period of complex illness with all these symptoms, it actually felt sometimes like my cells had PTSD.
Hmm.
So I don't know if maybe my system knew PTSD so well that it jumped over to the cellular level and started saying, oh no, we need to react to everything, because I was no longer working on the trauma. I was fine. I mean, I had gone through enough therapy. I felt like I was fine. So
When
I
did
don't, I don't know if those two crossed.
when did when did you discover brain retraining, and what was your experience with it? And yeah.
I discovered it probably a year or two after I started living in the middle of nowhere, trying to find a place where I would stop reacting to everything in the world.
Yeah.
And I tried two different programs at different points in time, and
Which
both
were the
times,
programs? Sorry.
one was called DNRS
Right.
by Annie Hopper, and the other one was by Ashok Gupta.
Yeah.
Gupta.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're similar in their approaches, and I got to the point in each program where I was starting to do if I remember correctly, what was supposed to be a 1 hour a day practice for at least a month of me saying stop, stop, stop to my brain. I think you can call it thought stopping in
Yeah.
traditional therapy parlance. But when I started practicing those things, in each program, what happened was that I part of my trauma recovery was a lot of parts work, and a lot of working with the parts in a way that was very non-confrontational and very, you can think what you want and you can feel what you want, and I'm going to be okay with that because I love you.
Interesting.
Because that was, I didn't grow up exactly like that, but those parts had the feeling that they had to be what they had to be, and they didn't get to choose who they actually were. So there was a lot of hands off. You can be okay. You can be who you are. And when I came along to these 2 points in these 2 programs where I started practicing this stop, 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 those parts were all going like, wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute. You're driving a road over the top of us and you're going to kill us all.
So with the parts, are we talking like internal family systems work?
Internal family systems, and I also had dissociative parts, which is probably stronger
Thank
than
you.
internal family systems. They're separate personalities, but there's a spectrum of that.
Yeah. In the beginning of our conversation, when you talked about, when you gave the metaphor of highways, it resonated with me as you were speaking. I wanted to ask you, would the following be accurate about your parts work? It was saying the highways you have, let's allow, accept, and honor them, not try to change them, as opposed to brain retraining, which is trying to, no, not that highway, build this other one. Is that?
Right, right,
Yeah,
right.
okay.
And I think maybe because my parts were so prominent, different than internal family systems parts, although that might be a spectrum too. I don't really know.
So with the parts work, you're saying it was very helpful in trauma recovery and
It was critical. Without
critical.
that, I would still be in PTSD probably.
No, wow.
Yeah.
And it was embracing of the highways.
It was
The
embracing of, it was like each part had its own personality and it was embracing of that personality. And if you think of that in terms of the brain and the nerves and all of that, probably with dissociative parts, there's a neural network that's pretty much encapsulated and not really well connected to the rest of the brain. And so it's like a piece of a personality that hid away so that you could survive the rest.
mm,
And when encountering those, they needed to feel safe to come out of their little neural network.
yeah.
So I got to know them as if you and I are talking. And I got to work with them and accept them and love them as they are and reparent them
Yeah.
so that they began to feel safe. And probably in my brain, neurons were beginning to connect to the rest of the brain and eventually they integrated. I don't sense those parts that way anymore. So probably those isolated neural networks got recontained or reconnected. But when the brain retraining came along, it felt to those parts like I was trying to shove them back in their little space and make them go away. And they were really part of me.
So the thought stopping was part stopping.
Yeah, in my case.
And yeah, in your experience, in your case.
Yeah.
So when you started to try the brain retraining programs, it sounds like it was just straight up harmful. Is that accurate?
For me, it was harmful. It would have been harmful to continue. That's why I stopped. It would have been, it felt like what would result if I continued with the brain training was putting a highway over all the healed parts that I had and making them go back into,
Hmm.
I don't know that you're there anymore, which is where they were for 37 years. I didn't start remembering until I was 37. And those
Okay.
parts didn't start coming out until years into therapy.
Thought stopping. Thank you. So thought stopping is is the was that the prime technique that you were
I
trying to
didn't
implement?
go any farther.
You can go any farther. Okay.
Well, and there was one other technique, and I remember in both instances, especially the Gupta program, it felt difficult for me. Before we got to the thought stopping, there was some, and this was probably 9 years ago, so maybe the program's changed since then. But there was some small amount of parts work, and the way that Gupta was describing how to work with your parts sounded to me and my parts like if the parts disagreed, oh, well, it's okay, you'll be fine, and we'll go on.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's exactly how my parts got abused. So there was like a red flag right there going, oh, and I was like, okay, well, let's just set that aside. I'm not going to talk to my parts like that. Maybe I can continue with the program and get benefit from it.
Yeah, okay. Okay. Um, there are many directions I'm considering going. Uh, so you commented on how brain retraining related to the parts work. It clashed pretty severely, and you felt like you were
Right,
undoing work.
right. For me,
And
yeah.
for you, yeah, for
It would,
you.
it felt like I would have been killing the parts.
Wow.
And
Um,
they were really pieces of me.
would you be able to pivot suddenly to vis-a-vis
Sure,
organic intelligence, like brain retraining
sure,
now vis-a-vis organic intelligence? Yeah, I have
sure.
thoughts here, but I want to go with you for now.
I the way that I look at brain retraining and organic intelligence is that brain retraining, like many traditional therapy approaches, it's not a therapy approach, but it's similar in this respect. It takes some conscious understanding and it says, okay, we're going to put this conscious understanding into our unconscious brain or body.
Is what you just said different from, okay, I think you just said, we're going to take this conscious understanding and put it into the unconscious, right?
Yeah,
Now, let me ask something about this. In our prior conversation, when you were a rocket scientist explains organic intelligence, your when you presented organic intelligence, an essential point in your presentation was that we're working with the unconscious self as an equal partner with the conscious self, which and in tandem and listening to the unconscious self, which contrasts against major players who want to excavate the unconscious self and do a bunch of stuff on it.
right.
Is that what you meant by now when you just said now applying the conscious self to the unconscious self? Is that the same point as
It's very similar.
very
So
similar?
I
Okay.
see a lot of the traditional therapy work, and I went through 20 years of this, and it was all there was at the time. And even though that's all there was, it still was effective, and it still is effective these days. It's just very different than organic intelligence.
Hmm.
I think a general, very simplified view of traditional therapy, a lot of them, is that you find some piece that's not working, that's coming out of the unconscious mind. Oh, I keep triggering at this, I keep freezing up at that. And you take it out and you work with it somehow. You get EMDR or CBT or internal family systems. And then when it looks like everything's kind of calmed down, you let go of it. But effectively, that means you just kind of let it go back into the unconscious. So with brain retraining, you're not taking a piece out, you're just saying, this is the piece I want, and you're putting it in.
That's yeah, taking the conscious self and trying to apply it to the unconscious self.
Right.
Whereas in organic intelligence, as you described it last week, it's the unconscious self and conscious self are working in tandem.
Yeah,
And
and actually, as you're saying that, I think I'm thinking of it like with organic intelligence, we're treating the unconscious self as an important person in and of itself. Like when we're doing sessions and you're the coach, you're not working with my conscious self except to follow which pieces might be in my unconscious showing up.
interesting.
And if there's any subtle signals that my unconscious is doing something that I'm not noticing, you're responding to the subtle signals, maybe even outside of my conscious awareness. So it's like organic intelligence walks alongside the unconscious, what can be interpreted and seen from the conscious coach's level. And when it sees the unconscious a little bit stuck in whatever the unconscious is doing, it gives a little handout and says, hey, you want some help?
Right.
And the unconscious can say, nope, don't want that, doesn't feel safe, or sure, I'll take the help. And it shifts, and the unconscious gradually gets freed up to do its own agenda, which is actually a healing agenda as well as keeping us whole and functional. So maybe some subtle organic intelligence intervention frees the unconscious up in a place where there was a whole bunch of stuff stuck behind it that couldn't be accessed for years because
Yeah.
there was this choke point. And when organic intelligence helps the unconscious release that choke point, well, now it has access to all that stuff, whatever it was, and it goes away and starts healing that.
I would like thank you. I want to do some of my own free associating on brain retraining and organic intelligence. It may not be directly connected to what you were just saying, but I just wanted to
Sure.
share some and see how where we go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, a major, actually, as you just intimated, a major focus of organic intelligence is on what is naturally arising, what is low effort, and what is pleasant. There's a premium on what is naturally arising, what is low effort, and what is pleasant. You didn't say that directly, but it was in the mix of your
Right.
working with the
Right.
unconscious as opposed to top
Yeah, I
down,
think
right?
my viewpoint is just lower than that.
Right. Actually, going forward, I actually want to think more about this is a side point. I still want to do my thing on brain retraining and organic intelligence, but that I usually describe organic intelligence as orientation and pleasure build capacity. And I repeat that over and over again a million times in different ways. And you came last week saying it's about working in tandem with the unconscious self, which is different from how other approaches do it. I'm very interested in that, your way of explaining it and thinking about the comparison going forward. Yeah, yeah.
Right. Yeah.
May I return to my main
Please.
so a major focus of organic intelligence is on what's low effort, pleasant, and naturally arising. And that, according to organic intelligence, is the fastest, most optimal way to heal and grow. Brain retraining, from what I've seen, it's super high pounding effort. At the same time, they do include but you also want to take it easy. But when they say take it easy, it feels to me like you're just kind of covering your bases. And so let me say more about this. So
Right. Right.
thank you. So the pounding part would be, well, here are these techniques. And by the way, there's so many techniques that it's hard. When I think of brain retraining, it doesn't cohere in my mind into some unified set of techniques. There's just many different techniques, CBT techniques, meditation techniques, positive psychology, just techniques and techniques and techniques. And so in some way, in some sense, I sometimes find it kind of empty because there's so many techniques that you're just, if it works, you're of course, if it works, some techniques worked, but what techniques? So brain training seems sometimes like just you're trying to catch every technique out there, so of course it will work when it works because you've just encompassed every technique plus the
Yeah.
technique can go, so you're just defining yourself in a way that it just works when it works. So
Right. And I don't even see brain retraining that way. I just see it as saying, okay, well, whatever the techniques are, we're going to just put this highway down in
yeah,
here,
yeah, yeah,
in the brain.
yeah. So yes, and they will often say that, communicate that by saying you got to be consistent, you got to repeat, and you got to be committed. If it's hurting, if it's not working, you just keep repeating, keep over time, and which according to organic intelligence can be very harmful. And the clients have come to me saying they may have been harmed by it. That's what I think happened. At the same time, the brain brain retraining advocates would would defend themselves against what I just said by saying, no, but we do say take it easy and focus on enjoying life and let go. And when I do a lot of when I've done uh, listening to YouTube videos, lectures, Dr. Schubiner, for example, on brain retraining, they will say sometimes the way to heal is just to stop trying and then you'll heal because you've let go, you've calmed down. But that rubbed me the wrong way because in a particular lecture that I remember, he said that in the middle of a lecture, as if it's buried in the middle, as if it was a passing remark. So it's like brain retraining is try, effort, repeat, commit, consistency. But I'll throw in there sometimes that you might want to let go and enjoy life. But it's just covering the bases, and in organic intelligence, we're
Yeah, like someone noticed it because they forgot one day to do all their do, and all of a sudden they got better, and so it's like, oh, well, we better acknowledge that too.
yeah, so it strikes me as I have the same thought in regard to CBT sometimes, cognitive behavioral therapy, because if cognitive behavioral therapy, the B is behavior, and if changing your behavior is part of CBT, that would just include anything you would ever do. So you've defined yourself in a way that your therapy works because because behavior changes anything. It could be
Yeah,
orientation, pleasure. So
yeah, I think of CBT more as thought change
yeah,
based.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
like change your thought and your behavior follows.
I may be getting too focused on the theoretical,
But
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 sometimes sorry, go ahead.
yeah, let me say something about the I think with the brain retraining and with all sorts of other techniques, we when we're sick, when we're struggling, we want a solution. And there's this, I think it's a myth that there's one solution. If we could only find the one solution, we'll be fine. If we could only try the one solution long enough, we'll be fine. It gives us control over our life when our life is out of control. And I know some people in brain retraining who are, I know one person who said they're trying to do organic intelligence, but they're so wedded to the mindset of brain retraining that it's hard to let go of the efforting that brain retraining brings in and start
Interesting.
letting go for the organic intelligence. And I think the what you said about say your pieces about organic intelligence again, the orientation and the pleasure and the
Orientation and pleasure grow capacity. That's
right.
right.
I think what happens when we as humans do pleasurable things is that we're not using so much of the energy that our internal systems could be using because we're not actively focused on doing something. So our internal systems actually have more energy to do their thing and to give us healing that they've been trying to give us when we're having relaxation and pleasure and we're not thinking about things and focusing on things. So what happens with brain retraining, for instance, when you're focusing for like an hour a day or a half hour a day on the same set of ritualistic thoughts, and I'm not downplaying that it works sometimes, you're using energy that the internal unconscious system could be using to do its thing. So it's always a trade-off.
That's interesting. I'd like to repeat what you just said to emphasize it, uh, to make sure I understand. The you have the energy you're spending in attentional exertion, which is characteristic of brain retraining protocols. If you didn't use that energy on attentional exertion, your organism may be able to use it organically, automatically, unconsciously to heal yourself.
It won't, maybe it will,
It will.
because
I
there's like the energy budget for the whole person. And when the conscious person's kind of taking it easy, doing something that they don't actively think about,
mm,
there's more energy in what's available for the unconscious system. When the conscious person is studying or practicing or doing brain retraining,
right.
less energy available for the unconscious system. So I think our unconscious system is always working on the daily tasks, and with whatever extra energy it has, it's doing whatever backlog of healing there is.
Yes.
So when we're spending an extra hour a day or a half hour a day doing brain retraining, we're eating into the extra healing that our unconscious system could be doing.
Yeah, I wonder if I disagree with something you said, or if it's just a matter of clarifying what you meant by something. You said it'll automatically do it. I would say the energy will automatically heal you to the extent you're in conditions of orientation and pleasure. So if you're doing brain retraining in a way that promotes orientation and pleasure, that will heal because you're moving into orientation and pleasure. If you're not doing potential exertion and you're not doing it promotes orientation and pleasure, that's when your energy will automatically heal you. I would just emphasize that it would have to be orientation and pleasure as the conditions. It's not automatic because many people are just they're not in
Well,
orientation or pleasure, so they're not
yeah,
automatically.
I think that orientation and pleasure have the characteristics of not using a whole lot of
Oh,
attentional energy.
yeah.
So they leave more energy for the unconscious system. So if we practice orientation and pleasure and we look for things where we can do more of those, we're giving our system more energy.
Yes. It could be just how you're understanding certain terms and how I'm
Yeah, I think I'm just
yeah.
understanding from the cells outward.
Mhm. Okay, we're on our time. Thank you very much for this conversation.
You're
Um,
welcome.
any last words? No pressure. For you didn't give me the tip on resolving my cold, but any last words on brain retraining and
Use a
organic?
Kleenex.
Yes. Yes.
I think the one thing that I would say is that there isn't necessarily any one method that's going to work for everybody. I think organic intelligence can work for anyone who has an unconscious nervous system, which is everybody, but it might not work the way that somebody could experience help in the time that they wanted. So it's like,
Hmm.
I think as a society, we're chasing our one fix. Like we go to the doctor, give me one pill, give me one shot, give me one antibiotic, and I'm going to be fine. But the human unconscious system is way more complicated than that. So I
Whatever.
think
Yeah.
if one thing's not working, just look for something different.
And follow what actually feels better.
Yes,
Yeah.
I've learned for myself that when it feels better, that's my unconscious system going, oh yeah, we can work with that.
Yes. Follow the pleasure, follow the feels better, follow the comfort.
As long as it's healthy
Right. There's a lot. Okay. Right. Right. So
and
yeah,
non-addicting.
guarding against certain yeah, got it.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you, Lisa Grove, Rocket
Sure.
Science.